Hello, my name is Jordy Izzard. I'm the Director of Global Alumni Relations here at SAIS. And I am here today. It's October 19, 2018. I have the pleasure of being here with Harry Qualman, who graduated from SAIS in 1968 and is here celebrating his 50th SAIS reunion with all of his friends. So we're just going to have a little bit of a conversation, and why don't we just start with what originally brought you here to SAIS?
Well, I guess I had done a master's degree at the University of Pittsburgh in economic and social development, and I had traveled already to Africa. I spent a year in Senegal and a couple of stays in the Congo-Brazzaville and the Congo-Kinshasa, and I wanted to specialize in Africa, and I was my previous work had been largely in economics, so I was interested because I did a doctorate at SAIS, and in the program there were two of the fields were international economics and African studies, and so that appealed to me a great deal. Mm-hmm. And I was happy to see that there was a lot of emphasis on languages as well, and I did a double language major, French and Spanish.
Great. And thinking about that, learning languages here at SAIS, what are your other memories of being a student here at SAIS?
Well, I really enjoyed the program at SAIS. I liked my professors a lot. I liked the fact we could get to know them, and I found the student body was very interesting. People from different backgrounds in different countries, and it was a good, a very interesting. I spent 2 years in my coursework, and then I did 1 year of research overseas in Madagascar, and I was very happy with my stay at SAIS. I just think it was, it was a very good environment with very high quality professors and friendly staff in general.
Mm-hmm. And was there anything at the time going on in history that you can recall?
Well, there was a lot going on in the U.S., and I was, from the apartment I was staying in, we could smell the tear gas from the riots, and that was certainly quite something to see. I had gotten married in late '67, so my wife and I were living in a small apartment here, and there was, of course, the assassination of Martin Luther King, and it looked like American society was having very serious problems.
Mm-hmm. And when you graduated in 1968 in May, where did your career take you? Where did you start, and where did it sort of take you along the way?
Well, I finished my coursework in '68, so those are the people I know. Mm-hmm. But since I was doing the doctorate, I still had a year of research to do, and so I first went to Madagascar, and when I came back from Madagascar, after I did my research, I lived temporarily in New York City. My wife was working at the United Nations, and I was trying to write my dissertation. We had a small apartment in New York City, and my professors had said I should try teaching, even though that was not my original plan. And so the idea was I would do a couple of years teaching, and then I would switch maybe back to administrative work, and then I could teach in my later years. So as it happened, African studies, which had been very popular earlier, because people originally thought Africa was going to develop very quickly, and when it didn't, then a lot of the programs closed their doors. So, I thought I was being very clever. I specialized in French-speaking Africa because everybody else was doing English-speaking Africa. It didn't occur to me, that maybe there weren't so many jobs for French-speaking Africa. So one day my wife at the UN met somebody, and the guy said, "What does your husband do?" And she said, "Well, he's writing his thesis, and he's looking for a teaching job having to do with French-speaking Africa." So this guy said, well, he should apply in Quebec City and Université Laval. So she told me this, and I said, well, I don't think they're going to take an American in Canada, and I thought it was a waste of time. I already had an inquiry from University of Maine, and we had said, well, that's pretty far north. We don't want to go that far north. So anyway, she kept nagging me, and I sent in my CV. In those days, it was only 8 cents for a stamp. And to my enormous surprise, I got invited for an interview, and then I was given a one-year position teaching African politics and international relations at a French-speaking university. So I was teaching in French. And then we had a child, and my contract was renewed, and basically, eventually, after a few years, I did finish the thesis and got my degree, and then I got my tenure and had another child, and then we decided to stay in Canada and became citizens. So I taught for 15 years, and the last 3 years I was chairman of my Department of Political Science, and there were 25 professors there, which was a little bit unusual for somebody who was English-speaking maternal language to become chairman in only a French-speaking university. And then I had a classic mid-career crisis. I thought I couldn't face teaching another 20 years the same sort of courses, and I reoriented myself somewhat and revised my Spanish, which had gotten very rusty. Took a student group to Costa Rica for 6 weeks. And then I moved to management of not-for-profit organizations, and I first managed the AFS organization in Canada. It was called AFS Interculture Canada, and I had a staff of about 20, and we were responsible for 250 students abroad in about 30 countries for a year, and staying with families, and another 250 from other countries who were spread across Canada with families. And that was quite an adventure. I did that for 7 years. And then after that, I worked in fundraising for an international work program, Canadian Crossroads International, and they asked me to be there. Since I had experience in management, they asked me if I could be their interim executive director, which I did twice for a year. And subsequent to that, then my last role was I was the executive director of the United Nations Association in Canada, and I did that for 7 years. And then I took early retirement. In the course of those various jobs, I did an enormous amount of travel, and I got to go through South America and much of Asia, and I enjoy traveling very much. So I continued. I do now volunteer work in fundraising for a musical organization in Canada, because I'm singing as a part of my life. And that's basically it. I didn't have what you would call a brilliant career. I had probably a mid-level career, but it was a good run, and I was happy with it. And I'm grateful to SAIS for the education they gave me.
That's great. Well, in thinking about sort of back on your illustrious career, we've had multiple sort of layers to it.
And I should add, after I retired, I became Santa Claus, and that's why I have a long beard.
Oh,
I'm a professional Santa Claus.
That's great. In Canada.
Santa, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Tell us, if you were talking to a current student today, what advice would you have for him or her?
Well, obviously, in my trajectory, originally my first foreign language was Spanish when I was in undergraduate school. And I started French later, but as life would have it, I ended up using my French a great deal more than my Spanish. I can speak Spanish as well, but it's not nearly as good as my French. And I think languages to me have been a very key element in my career. So I think the emphasis that SAIS has on languages is very important. I would say that as a young person, sometimes we don't realize when we take decisions, we open a door and we go into it, and then we in fact close doors behind us. So each step that you take in your career is kind of, it's exciting and different. And in my instance, for example, if I can tell a semi-funny story that happened to me, my undergraduate work was in economics, and my master's was in economic and social development. And while I chose SAIS because it had a stream of international economics and African studies, it never crossed my mind that when you have a doctorate in international relations, if you're going to teach, you end up in a Department of Political Science. Oh. So I kind of made a rather important turn without even realizing it until after I suddenly found myself, oh, you're a political scientist? Yeah, I said. Anyway, that's
great.
so, and I think there's a number of things that happen in my life along those lines, you know, I mean, chance happenings, you know, that somebody, if I hadn't heard about this job in Quebec City, I wouldn't have lived in Canada now for nearly 50 years, and so, you know,
It's a great city.
Yeah.
I was there last summer.
yeah, yes, it is a nice city.
Yeah.
I lived there for 18 years, and then I lived in Montreal for 7, and then in Gatineau near Ottawa for the last 25.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We really just hope you have a wonderful time celebrating 50 years from SAIS.
Thank you.
And enjoy all your friends, and thanks for doing the interview with us.
Okay, it's a pleasure, thank you.